Class loner Haruka categorizes his classmates as delinquents, gals, jocks, nerds, class rep followers, and a few others. On a certain day, a magic circle begins transporting everyone to an alternate world, and Haruka ends up being the last person transported. A god informs him his classmates have already selected the best skills and equipment, so Haruka's only choices are useless skills nobody else wanted. Tired by his complaining, God gives him all the useless skills and equipment left. Arriving in a forest, Haruka applies all his available skill points to luck and begins experimenting with the useless skills and equipment. He discovers a loner skill that forces him to survive alone. He also relies heavily on contact lenses that give him appraisal abilities. Discovering a cave, he sets up camp and discovers Loner keeps monsters away. Discovering some goblins, he defeats them with the only weapons he can use, wooden staves. Realizing he could live comfortably by upgrading the useless skills properly, he sets about training and leveling up. On day 5, he detects his classmates wandering around in their various groups, including the class rep on whom he has a crush. In the end, he avoids them so he can focus on living as an alternate world loner. Haruka spies on the delinquents but finds they are concerned only with seducing the girls. Satisfied they are mostly harmless, Haruka returns to leveling up, which is stalled at level 3 due to the useless skill Master of None. Next, he encounters the nerds who have already reached level 16 as magicians and warriors due to their familiarity with Isekai'd media, but they are now leaving everyone behind. They explain the delinquents attempted to use the skills charm and puppeteer to hypnotize the girls into a harem, so the nerds use magic seal to prevent them using those skills, causing the delinquents to destroy camp. Inexplicably, everyone blamed the nerds for provoking the delinquents, and the nerds voluntarily left them. The nerds say goodbye to Haruka and leave to start lives as adventurers. Haruka visits the destroyed camp and finds the gals regretting their actions and searching for the nerds to apologize. Haruka advises them to learn to survive without the nerds and then find them to apologize. Haruka agrees to teach them, but accidentally activates his skill Subjugate, turning the gals into mindless slaves. Haruka panics at what Class Rep will do to him if she finds out, only for Class Rep to suddenly appear. Elsewhere, the delinquents plan to take the girls by force. Girls are disgusted by Haruka's subjugation, though luckily the effect soon wears off. Haruka admits his renovated cave is large enough to house everybody. They are amazed Haruka has built bedrooms, a kitchen, and bathroom. Haruka is horrified when everyone except Class Rep strips naked and takes over the bathroom. Class Rep admits to having failed as a leader, though Haruka assures her nobody could prepare for such an extreme situation. Haruka awakens the next morning and is elated the girls have cooked fish, which so far he has been unable to catch. He discovers his packing skill, which can capture objects within a 3D space, can capture the girls' magic and unlock it permanently as one of his own skills. The girls plan to leave to find a city, but Haruka decides to help them train first. One of the girls, whom Haruka dubs Fish Girl, develops a crush on him. After some difficulty, the girls learn how to fight monsters. Haruka looks forward to being alone once again, until Class Rep reveals he is coming with them to the city. Elsewhere, one of the delinquents is murdered by a hooded student.
Regarding Magical Academy, Will Surfort, an honors student in his 6th and final year who is very knowledgeable in magic despite being unable to use magic himself, is called out by Professor Edward Surfins to use magic, and after failing to do so, Edward emphasizes that magic is absolute supremacy. After class, Will is approached by Cyan Ulster, an arrogant classmate hailing from a prestigious noble family, and bullies him to remind him that he will never become a Magiavander, a title for the most powerful wizards, before Will's friend Colette Loire comes to his defense. Will recalls his promise he made to his childhood friend, who became the youngest Magiavander in history, that serves as his reason for attending magic school. Will sees his advisor, Professor Werkner Norgam, after another dungeon raid, and Werkner tries to convince him to give up since graduating without any spellwork credits is practically impossible. Needing 4 credits in 2 days to avoid flunking out, he sets out to the 6th floor of the dungeon to fight a Baskerville. Cyan overhears their conversation and heads to the 6th floor himself to defeat the Baskerville before Will has a chance to ensure his expulsion, but encounters a Sentinel, a 10-credit monster normally found in deeper floors. Cyan is powerless against the Sentinel, but Will arrives and uses his master swordsmanship to easily defeat the monster to earn 10 credits and meet the quota required to stay in school. 5 years ago, Will started school not long after his childhood friend Elfaria Albus Surfort became a Magiavander, and despite his inability to use magic, impressed the headmaster Caldron Anuv with his swordsmanship, who envisions his sword being a wand. Back in the present, Werkner explains in a class lecture what ascending the tower means as the next step to becoming a Magiavander is to advance to the upper institute, either by inventing a new magic or earning a large number of credits, with the latter being the conventional route, but the former being Will's only realistic route. After class, Will runs into Cyan, who takes out his anger at Will for defeating the Sentinel. Meanwhile, Edward demands Cauldron to expel Will for failing spell work despite acing all other subjects. Cauldron agrees to do so if he fails a special test administered by Edward. While studying in the library with Colette, Edward summons Will to the Magic Hall for the test, where Will's objective is to land a hit on Edward. Without his sword, Will struggles. But after Colette delivers Will his sword that he had put in his locker earlier, he slices through Edward's magic and attacks from his blind spot from above to graze his face and pass the test. Will reveals that his goggles he wears when fighting are a parting gift from Elfaria after she graduated from the academy. Back in the present, Will finishes his morning job to deliver newspapers that reveal that Elfaria invented a new magic, and subsequently passes down an order to the academy to collect Frostwalker cores. Will asks his roommate Rosti Naumann to craft a magical item for this order. Afterwards, Will goes to the 4th floor of the dungeon where he saves the student Iris Churchill, who claims to be once saved by Elfaria. Will and Iris go looking for Frostwalkers on the 4th floor and encounter an unusually strong one called the Frost Rex. With Will's swordsmanship and knowledge about the Frost Rex, he ties up the monster and uses explosives Rosti made to defeat it. Iris is revealed to be the Watcher Iris X, Stella Maris, who was sent by Elfaria to pose as a student and keep watch on Will. Iris reports to the Magiavander and puts in a recommendation for Will to take a tower position with the fated day just around the corner, but the Magiavander's object. With the Grand Festival coming, they decide to hold off on deciding on tower positions until after the festival. Lihanna Owenzaus, Wignall Lindor, and Julius Reinberg are revealed as the top students in terms of credits earned and are advancing the Upper Institute. The biennial Grand Magic Festival, a competition between the 4 tower factions, approaches with Will planning to skip it like last time after embarrassing himself during the event in his 2nd year, despite Colette suggesting he should enter. Will and Colette go to their lockers and they find a hidden passageway in one of their lockers that leads to an underground gambling ring for the festival. That night, Will goes to work at his night job at Gina's Tavern, a tavern frequented by dwarves, with Rosti. Julius and 2 of his buddies drop by to insult the dwarves, and Will stands up to defend them and demand Julius to apologize. Will and Julius fight with Will taking out his buddies, but Julius freezing Will in place. Julius decides that he will finish him off at the festival and demands Will to enter it. The Grand Magic Festival begins, and Iris is one of the scouts there, focusing specifically on Will. The first event is the Crown Attack, where the objective is to navigate through the traps and battle the other students to take the crown at the goal in teams of 3, with Will teaming up with Colette and Cyan. Will charges in equipped with magical gauntlets with Colette covering for him, and he uses his knowledge and swordsmanship to defeat the enemies. However, Julius gets ahead of him and attacks Will with his ice magic. Cyan responds by casting a powerful fire spell, but then turns his attacks on Will and demands that Will faces Cyan in a duel despite being teammates for the event. As Will and Cyan engage in battle, Cyan recalls the time he first met Will and took out his anger on him for being somebody who cannot use magic. Cyan dares Will to attack, but Will refuses to attack a teammate, understanding the situation. Elsewhere, Colette and Julius fight, and the students watching in the stadium notice that, unbeknownst to the competitors, Julius made clones of himself to attack the other teams. Wignall notices this right away and takes out the clones sent to attack his team. Will attempts to run away, but Cyan cuts off his escape route by summoning his guardian deity Halcon to attack him. Having no choice but to fight back, Will easily reads Halcon's moves and defeats it. Just as Will and Cyan were about to deliver the decisive blow, Colette intervenes and tells Will to go after Julius after she dispatched his clone. Will runs towards the stadium to challenge Julius to a duel. The Ice faction's aide-de-camp, Sarissa Alfeld, presents Elfaria with a recommendation for Julius to become her successor. Will and Julius have their duel to decide the winner of the crown attack event, and Julius uses his illusion spell called Ars Weiss to overwhelm Will and freeze him in place, and then brags to the crowd that he has mastered the El Glas Frossa, a series of 12 ice magic spells created by Elfaria. But Will, using his extensive knowledge of the magic having been around Elfaria his whole life, notices that Julius has not mastered Ars Weiss as his teammates are controlling the clones, and Will takes out the teammates with an attack from their blind spot. Then Will locates the real Julius using the difference in temperature and attacks him, pointing out that Elfaria created the magic at age 2. Julius summons 8 clones despite being able to master control of only 4 to launch a desperate attack on Will. Will easily dodges the attacks and defeats Julie. Will celebrates his victory over Julius at Gina's tavern with Colette, Rosti, and Werkner, with Julius washing dishes for the night as punishment. Sometime later, the students are looking to form teams for the all-student praxis, and Will is highly sought after due to his performance at the festival. The next day, Will spends his day off going shopping with Colette and Rosti. Colette feels uneasy, especially when Rosti keeps getting in between her and Will. While Will gets maintenance on his sword, Colette and Rosti talk about the matter in private. On the way to the blacksmith, Will encounters Lihana, who asks Will to form a party with her, Julius, Scion, and Wignall. After hearing that Lihana needs to become a Magia Vander to save her family from ruin, Will accepts the invitation and Colette joins him as well. A few days later, the all-student praxis begins where the lower floors of the dungeon are temporarily unlocked, giving students the opportunity to earn large amounts of credits, but due to the high danger that some students get killed. As the all-student praxis begins, Will's party jumps ahead of the competition while making quick work of weaker monsters. However, Will is unable to earn any credits, since his teammates all defeat their enemies before he can act. Lihana explains that their objective is to defeat the 10th floor's boss, worth 110 credits. However, upon reaching it, they find it is already dead and are ambushed by an even stronger monster, which destroys the ground and causes them to fall to the 11th floor, which only high mages may enter. During the fall, the party also got separated. Will with Wignall, Colette with Lihana, and Scion with Julius. Meanwhile, a monster stampede destroys the Academy's camp, with some professors being killed by 2 mysterious mages, causing the praxis to get cancelled. Back with Will, he and Wignall venture through the floor to locate their comrades, but the latter doubts the former's abilities and stubbornly refuses help. However, after Will saves him from a monster that he failed to defeat himself, Wignall breaks down, revealing that, while a powerful mage by human standards, his skills are mediocre compared to his fellow elves. Wignall explains that his illusion magic lacks physical mass and he is thus considered inferior to other elves, especially in comparison with his childhood friend, the Magia Vander Eleanor Ljos Alf. However, Will begins bonding with him over this, as they are both no talents. They are then attacked by monsters immune to physical and most magical attacks known as Balkars. With Will's encouragement, Wignall manages to overcome his inferiority complex and defeat their enemies by giving his illusions form, causing him to start respecting Will. Meanwhile, the instructors evacuate the remaining students while Werkner and Edward head out to look for Will's party, the only ones still missing. Back with Will, he and Wignall find Scion and Julius. Elsewhere, Colette and Lihana are attacked by the mysterious mages who destroyed the Academy camp, Mars and Headless. Fortunately, Will and the others come to their aid, reuniting the party. Headless then uses transportation magic to summon the monster that caused the party to fall to the 11th floor, an evil Grand Duke, a 270 credit monster.